My name is Mollie McCarroll, and I am the Assistant Director of Outreach for our Gulf Coast Area Get to College Center. I'm super happy to be here, just sharing some good information with y'all. This is FAFSA Friday, and so like I said today, I'm going to really try to focus on the aspect of verification when we're talking about the FAFSA. So if you've gone through this process, you've filled out your FAFSA already for your specific college or colleges that you're planning to apply to, and maybe you've received already a financial aid package of some kind, and then maybe you get a letter in the mail or something in your email, or you're looking on your student account and you see something called verification. And a lot of people see that and they worry, or they're like, I don't know what this is. How do I do this? What does this mean? Am I in trouble? We don't want verification to be something that bothers you or worries you, okay? So, verification, I'm just gonna break it down for you and kind of tell you what it means, what this looks like for you in your financial aid process, okay? So verification does not have to be something that's daunting or overwhelming. Just think of it as something that is essential in this process if you are selected for it. So, just to kind of break down what is verification. When you have filled out the free application for federal student aid, your college may select you for verification, and it is college by college based. Now, when I talk to students about verification, I'm basically explaining it to them like this. It's intended to improve accuracy, right? Think of it as simply being verified. They're basically wanting to verify the information that you provide on the FAFSA. So sometimes people are randomly selected for verification, so sometimes it's just a random selection process. And it happens way more than students even realize. So you're not alone in this if you're chosen for verification. It happens quite often, actually. So it could be something where you're chosen randomly for it, or maybe they're just making sure that the information provided on the FAFSA is accurate. You know, maybe you weren't able to use the data retrieval tool, which we'll talk about. Or maybe a parent experienced identity theft and you had to manually put in the tax information. Just little things like that. Verification allows the college and the financial aid office to make sure that the information provided is accurate and correct, which can be very helpful for you in the process, okay? And so why would you need to complete the verification process, okay? So if selected for verification through a college, it is a requirement. And so, you know, you may have gotten a financial aid package that showed you what you're eligible to receive or expected to receive from that specific school. But if you are selected for verification, it's a requirement through the process. So, you know, it would be beneficial for you to go through that process and complete it, because you could lose out on your financial aid, your student, your Pell Grant money, your student loans, anything like that. You could miss out on that if you're choosing not to go through the verification process. So that's why we want to make sure that you understand what it is and that it's not something scary. And then also, you know, in the comments they're dropping, file the FAFSA at studentaid.gov. If you haven't even gone through the process of doing the FAFSA yet, this is the first step, is doing the FAFSA, and verification comes after. So just that little disclaimer as well. But how do you know if you need to go through the verification process? So, like I said, most colleges, you may see this information in a letter from the college. A lot of the times now, because of where we are with COVID-19, if they're sending out verification, that may come to you in an email. But one thing that I could really suggest to you that could be very helpful through this process is making sure that you're checking your student account. You know, at this point, if you have filled out your FAFSA and you're receiving information about verification, that should tell you that, okay, you've been admitted, you've gone through that process, you should have access to your student account for whatever college that you are planning to attend or have applied to, okay? And so something that I really suggest for students is to check their student account. So that is an area where you're able to see one, where you will start to accept your scholarships. Eventually you'll need to go there anyway to accept your scholarships, but two, that's also where you can check to see if maybe you have any holds or requirements in regards to verification. So yes, you may receive a letter or you may get an email that says, hi, you've been selected for verification, here are the steps to take, but also using your student account as an area to double check on all of that is great as well. So that is an area where it will tell you specifically what are the next documents that are needed, what are those requirements that are needed for me for the verification process. And like I said, doesn't have to be daunting. It can be done pretty quickly, but you want to think of verification as something that is needing to be done quickly and not go into like a chaotic state whenever you're thinking about it, because it doesn't have to be scary, but you do want to act quickly whenever you are dealing with verification so that you can make sure that you are getting all of those details taken care of before you have started school or even go to orientation or things like that. And so it's good to just think about it, okay, selected for verification, let's go, let's get this process started. So when we're talking about documents that are needed for the FAFSA, this could vary based on your specific situation or the college. But when you're thinking about documents that are needed, one big portion of that for verification is the verification worksheet. So every college, when a student is selected for verification, there will be a verification worksheet. Now, like I said, you know, this might come to you in different ways from the individual college, okay? So you may receive your verification worksheet in a link in an email where you can go and get that, maybe print it out, fill it out and sign it and send it back in. Or if you're checking your student account, you may see ways to get to that from your student account. So it really depends on the school, but that is one of the big pieces of documentation that you would have to submit is a verification worksheet. And on that verification worksheet, there are some questions that pop up. And so normally it's going to ask about student info. It will ask if the student has filed taxes. If not, you just check mark that you haven't filed taxes, right? Then it may ask about household size, people in the household, and who they are to the student that's applying, just kind of like they would have on the FAFSA. And so it might ask for number of people in the household. So it's some of the same questioning that you might have seen on the FAFSA. And so, like I said, household size, but then also it may ask, or it will ask questions about parent tax information. So we know that there will be a verification worksheet that has to be submitted, but also if a parent on the FAFSA could not use the IRS data retrieval tool. So let's say maybe they experienced identity theft, or taxes were filed after the filing date. There are a lot of different things and factors that could come into play, or maybe parent was married in 2018, if we're talking about this year, and then they're no longer married right now. Marital status, identity theft, a lot of different things can come into play. So maybe they weren't able to use the IRS data retrieval tool that basically pulls that tax information over from the IRS. If that's the case, then through the verification process, the college might also ask for an IRS tax transcript. Okay, and so if that's the case, on the verification worksheet, there are kind of like 3 different check marks that you can choose from. One is, okay, the parent did use the IRS data retrieval tool. 2 is they did not, so here's how you can select or request an IRS tax transcript. Or maybe they're a non-filer. Maybe they receive Social Security, they're not working currently, so then maybe you could just mark parent as a non-tax filer. Okay, so there are kind of different options there. Even if they're a non-tax filer, they may still have to provide that tax transcript information showing that they were not required to file taxes, basically. Okay, so it's just kind of knowing what are the documents that the school is asking for, Just know, across the board at every college, they are going to want the verification worksheet. That IRS.gov website that just got dropped, that is where you would go to get a tax transcript, if that is something that's required of you. Okay, so some schools, they may ask for the verification worksheet, and even if there was the IRS data retrieval tool used, they may also still ask for a tax transcript. So that's why it's really important to check that student account to see if there are additional documents that the school might be requiring, okay? And so that's really important to note that, again, I'll say it again, the student account for the school is the best way to make sure that you're turning in all of the information that they are asking for. But the IRS website, irs.gov, if you do have to submit that tax transcript, then that is where you can go to retrieve that. Now, right now, because, we're in this new normal, right, with COVID-19, things are just kind of different for a lot of different people. On the IRS website, if you go there, and I'm looking at it right now on my computer, if you go to that specific link where it's welcome to get transcript, where you can retrieve that, right now, tax transcripts are only available online. So that's just an important little disclaimer for you to note. Right now, just because of COVID-19 and where we are, you're only able to retrieve that online and not by mail. And so it's basically saying we have stopped processing transcript requests by mail until further notice. And so that's just something that you want to keep in mind when you are going online. If you do have to request the tax transcript, just note that there are some requirements there of things that you may need to request it online, but that is still doable. You can still request it online. And let me just read to you, since we're on here, when you're requesting the IRS tax transcript online, what you need, and it says it here, to register and use this service, you need social security number, date of birth, filing status, and mailing address from the latest tax return. This is straight from the IRS website, the one that they dropped in the comments. Access to an email account, and a personal account number from a credit card, mortgage, home equity loan, home equity line of credit or car loan, and a mobile phone with your name on the account. And so I know that a lot of that is very much like, a lot of things that they need. And right now, I don't know if they're changing that format based on the fact that you're only allowed to access it online, and maybe not everybody has a credit card or a mortgage or a home equity loan. But as of right now on the website, that is still what they are requiring in order to obtain the IRS tax transcript online. If you have more questions about that, or you're confused or concerned as to how you can retrieve that, that's when you can contact us directly. You can direct message us, you can email one of us. Of course, all of our information for our staff members and their emails are on our website. So again, our website, gettocollege.org, that's still a great way to kind of keep up with what's happening, how to contact people, and so make sure that you're utilizing that if you need to, just to reach out to us. But when we're talking about those documents, the most important one is going to be that verification worksheet. And a lot of the times, there's a signature that's required for the worksheet, so that might be something that you need to print, fill out, and sign that way for the verification worksheet. Now, another question about this that we would, most likely get, do I need to complete the verification process at every college? So if you're selected for verification through individual colleges, then yes. So just because, let's say a student is applying to Mississippi State and USM and the University of South Alabama, if they're selected for verification at Mississippi State, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be selected at each one. It's individual college by college basis, okay? And so that's why it's really important to make sure. It could happen all across the board, but just really making sure that you're paying attention college to college, the verification process. It's not just one verification worksheet for every college. It's based on the individual college itself. And so that's really important to pay attention to. I feel like I've said it 1,000 times, but I just want to make sure students know use that student account. Make sure that you are taking care of all requirements and holds that might happen. And listen, if you have questions about those types of things, not only do you have us, but you have really great admissions counselors as well. I see J.R. Gerhardt is watching, and he works in the recruitment office and Office of Admissions at USM. There are people out there, your admissions counselors, people that are in the Office of Admissions, your financial aid offices at your colleges. If you have questions that pop up, there are advisors, admissions counselors, and our staff that are here to help you through that process, okay? So, next question, what if I don't complete it? So what if you don't complete the verification process? Listen, we don't want that to happen, okay? You know, if you don't fill out the verification process, the college is not able to disperse that money to you. Just think of it as a part of the financial aid process. Think of it as the college planning process, the enrollment process for you. You know, you may be able to enroll in college without verification, but if you're relying on financial aid for being able to enroll, then the verification process is really important. So you may be missing out on really precious financial aid, grant money, loans, if you don't fill out the verification process. It will stay as a requirement on your account until it's filled out, and they can't disperse that money to your account until verification has been done. And so, like I said, you know, reach out to those people if you have questions about that. Let's see, do you know of a good site for scholarships? I will definitely get to that, so give me just a second if you'll hang tight. I'm just going to answer one last question, and then I will definitely give you some information about scholarships. Thank you for asking. Okay, so how can Get to College help me with the verification process? I've kind of mentioned it already, right? We are always here to help. You reach out to us. You know, when we were in our offices, and even now, it's just the same. We book appointments. We not only book appointments for college planning, for the FAFSA, but also for the verification process. So even though we're doing virtual appointments right now, you book an appointment with us and we can make sure that we walk you through the verification process so that you don't feel like you're alone in this. Okay, and so the Get to College Center is here and always happy to help you as you're navigating this process. So again, verification is not something that has to be scary or daunting. Just think of it as something that, listen, you're not alone in it. I tell students that all the time. Like, it is very common that a student might be selected for verification, whether it's just randomly being selected or maybe they're just trying to verify that information was provided correctly. If maybe they didn't get to use the IRS data retrieval tool, it's just a way to verify, hey, this information that we're providing, it's correct, we're good to go, we can help this student with their financial aid. And so that, I just kind of wanted to cover verification. If there are questions that you have about this process, please drop them in the comments. I'm happy to address them, or you can always direct message us, you can email us, you can still talk to us even after this live event, so we're always here to help. Now, addressing that question about do you know of any good sites for scholarships? When we're talking about whether it's financial aid or scholarships, it kind of depends on the type of scholarship that you're wondering about. And in our presentations that we give to students, or when I'm speaking to a student one-on-one, I always talk about the 4 different types of financial aid, right? We've covered that federal aid portion, the free application for federal student aid. That is one way that you can potentially receive grant money, right? But then also you have your Mississippi financial aid. If you or your student is planning to go to a school within the state of Mississippi, there's that Mississippi financial aid portion. But when we're talking about scholarships outside of grant money, you have kind of 2 different ways that you can look at it. Outside aid or even college aid. So when we're talking about maybe outside aid, if you're thinking like good websites for scholarships, something that I would really encourage you to do is actually go to our website at gettocollege.org. If you go there right now, I'm going to kind of walk you through the process. So if you're at gettocollege.org, and they dropped exactly how to get there, gettocollege.org financial aid, but let's say you go to student and families, maybe you go to financial aid, and then private scholarships. That financial aid portion that they dropped right there actually brings you to everything that I just talked about. whether it's outside aid, college aid, financial aid, federal aid, or state aid, okay? But if you go to private scholarships, this gives you a breakdown of state and local scholarships that we hear about, as well as regional and national scholarships, and scholarship search sites that might be national as well. And so this is a really great place to start if maybe you or your student, you're in the space where you say, okay, I've done the FAFSA, I've done the Mississippi Financial Aid, the MAP application. Maybe you have already received an academic, ACT-based scholarship from the college. Maybe you're just looking for additional scholarships out there that might be able to stack on top of some of those. This portion of our website will be really helpful in that regard. So also, something else that can be very helpful for your student, I know they're not in school right now, but they still have access to their counselors and their Career Center counselors. So reaching out to them to see about other community-based scholarships that might exist, that's a great place to start too. And so I hope that kind of answers your question, but I truly would start right here on that page for private scholarships so that you can see what's out there, what you have access to both locally and across the United States. And so for this FAFSA Friday, I really just wanted to focus on, okay, we've talked so much about the process of the FAFSA, what's included on that, whose information do you use, what do assets look like? We've talked all about that. But then sometimes there are those extra steps like verification. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody felt comfortable with what that looked like, what verification means, what it can mean for you, and making sure that you obtain that scholarship money. So I definitely want to leave some time if there are any questions. And so, I really appreciate all of you tuning in. I think these FAFSA Fridays are really important for our Mississippi community, just to make sure that we're all hanging in there together and making sure that we're getting all of that accurate information out to you. And again, we are always here to continue to answer questions if you have those. You can always directly message us, or you can reach out to us via email. My name is Mollie McCarroll. Again, I'm the Assistant Director of Outreach for our Gulf Coast area GetCollege Center. So I'll leave, a couple of more minutes for any questions. Hi, Brenda. And so I'll just leave maybe just a minute or two more to see if anybody has any questions. But like I said earlier, if this didn't answer some of the questions that you maybe have about the FAFSA, check out Tori's video that she did earlier, as well as just make sure you reach out to us individually if you have more questions, or book an appointment if you have more extensive questions about what the FAFSA is, or if you haven't filed it yet and you need to for the 2020 and 2021 semester, okay? Now, something else that I want to mention, not every school is currently doing this, so I don't want to, spread false information, do anything like that, but, recently, a student received an email from Mississippi State talking about how they may be eligible to appeal their financial aid package if they've already received that due to COVID-19. Okay, this is specifically just me talking about Mississippi State, something that was sent out. This could be happening for other schools. We don't know that, right? But what this talked about was, if a parent received a decrease in pay, or if they were laid off due to COVID-19, there might be an opportunity to appeal a scholarship. That all of that information was in this email, and also on their financial aid website. But what I want to mention, in the comments, the formswift.com that was posted just now, if you, for any reason, have to write a financial aid appeal for Mississippi State or for any other reason, whether it's due to COVID-19 or not, Swift Student is a website. I want you to be able to click on that if you want to see more information about it. This website, Swift Student, will help you write a financial aid appeal letter for free. And so I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, okay? So that if you have more questions about that, just regarding Mississippi State directly, or if it's for any other reason, or if you just have questions about the website, wanted to make sure that you were aware of what that is, in what that does for you. And so this will just basically help you kind of go through the process, asking you some questions, and it will help you build a financial aid appeal letter for free. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that you are aware of what that is and what it does. Address independent students and scholarships. So I don't know if that is just meaning just individually. I talked a little bit about scholarships just kind of on their own just a minute ago, just talking about how our website can be helpful in looking at different scholarship opportunities under that private scholarships page. And that website is posted right above the gettocollege.org/financial aid. But when talking about independent students, is there anything specifically that you were wanting to know about? I know that has been talked about in some other videos, but when it comes to verification, students may receive, if they are a dependent student, meaning that they are still using parent tax information, with the verification process, they may receive a dependent verification worksheet. Now, if they are an independent student, meaning, a couple of different things depending on that student's specific situation, then they would get an independent student verification worksheet. So for independent students on the FAFSA, that looks like a few different things. That for a student could be if they're above the age of 24, if they're currently married, if they're active duty military, if they are in a guardianship, if they're homeless or at risk of being homeless, right? So there are those different things that constitute a student being independent on the FAFSA, but an independent student could also be selected for verification. But those are different worksheets that would be put on the student's account as a requirement. And so hopefully if that didn't quite answer your question, then definitely reach out to one of us individually. And so if there are individual questions like that start to pop up, please reach out to us. Message us individually, find one of our if you have a Get to College counselor that you've already reached out to in the past, reach out to them. And make sure that studentaid.gov help center, that independent student, that will give you more information. That was just dropped in the comments. That's going to give you even more information about what that looks like for the FAFSA, what constitutes a student to be an independent student. Thank you for asking that. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Please reach out to us if you have more questions. We're always happy to help, and I hope that y'all have a great weekend. Thank y'all so much.